Hey fellas. Now this is far off from my usual content, but you know those videos where it says like blank 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 explained in 15 minutes and I saw a video about football formations explained and I was like that's not really entirely accurate, but I can forgive. So I decided I want my own. So here it is. This is MS Paint. And also no script, no AI script, no AI visuals. This is MS Paint, and uh, uh this is my script. It's just 4 bullets. Formation to talk, or formation talk, and a line that says it's not about the formation, but it is how you use it, which is true. So the first formation, of course, let's go with the basic. Uh, a four, two. Now I don't know if I'm gonna do the congested version or I'm just gonna rant about nuances and stuff, but this is a 4-4-2, and the usual perception of a 4-4-2 is two banks of four, right? Two banks of four and a pair of strikers. Now it's always been said that it's very common in English football because verticality and stuff. Look at that passing lane. Very very boxy, very vertical. So, and you have it's safe in the wide areas because of these two forwards. I mean, these two wide players, and you always have an attacking outlet, and because there's always at least one person at the top. So this guy can drop deep. This guy can stay up. And look at that, it's a 4-4-1-1. But let's talk about that later. Usually the 4-4-2 is equipped by defensive teams, but it can also be used as pressing because if you um if you have these wingers tucked in, oh no, what's that formation? It's a 4-2-2-2. Ralph Ragnick's favorite, you know? Like that. But let's talk about that later. You see how versatile a 4-4-2 is. It's very simple, very basic, and every player here knows what they want to do or what they are asked to do. The strength of this 4-4-2 is its compactness, and it's very hard to break down. That's why it's a favorite defensive shape. Even Man City is using it sometimes. If you see their games and they don't have the ball, they're probably gonna resort to a 4-4-2. To explain that this is good in fucking vertical passes because there's gonna be usually 4 players in attack, right? So if like you can pass the ball here from the center back, just hoof ball, just put it here, then maybe the target man or someone that's dropping deep or just holding up the ball the highest guy in the pitch, maybe, I don't know. So you can do that, pass that, and you can tee it off maybe somewhere here for the midfielder. Wait, no, here, maybe here, then tee it off to a winger that's like bombing here. So this fullback is maybe providing cover. Then there's gonna be around 3 players that's making the runs, maybe 4, maybe let's have an adventurous wingback. So you now have around 4 players bombing here. Then this winger can chip it across. Then go maybe or a header. That's good enough. The next is we're still in the 4-4-2 categories. I've briefly touched on it earlier. Is a 4-4-1-1. Which is basically a 4-4-2 in defense, or maybe a 4-5-1, but we'll talk about that later. But this is a 4-4-1-1, where the usual striker around here is dropped here, and one striker is more central, or you can do that, or maybe it's just this guy doing that. Basically, you got one striker and one creative player, so there's like more solidity in the midfield if you want that. And you also have crossing options out wide because you can have these two wingers be yeah, you can have runners in there. Maybe they're inverted and you can do that something. You just be creative in these formations because it's not about the formation, it's about how you use them. So maybe you can have a halfback right here, center. You can have tucked in there. Maybe this guy can drop a bit. Maybe a dictator. And what is that formation? That is a 3-2-5. The favorite attacking formation right now. So what is this? What is the 4-4-1-1? It's basically just a 4-4-2, but you want more control in the midfield. That's pretty much it. And you have a dedicated forward right here. So this is a borderline 4-5-1, a bit more triangle, still vertical. Like that, maybe like that. But this guy's just disconnected to everything. That's why in defense, this is pretty much just a 4-4-2. I think this is what Deitch used in Everton last season. It looks like a 4-2-3-1, but it's actually this. You can have it's DCL here, and the core is sometimes in this here. He's lined up in that, but sometimes Ghana is the sole pivot here. Sometimes it's like this, and sometimes when I think he did it in Arsenal when it was like 5, and he just did that. He can drop into a 5, and sometimes you can have most particularly in defense, he will be aside Calvert Lewin and into a 4-4-2 low block thingy. That's the thing with this 4-4-2 is that this guy can do anything that you wanted to do. He can be a striker, he can be a midfielder, he can be the creative player right in the middle, because yeah, that's a very advantageous position to be in. That's when you use a 4-2-4-4-1-1. So next is, let's stay in the 4-4-2. I think I've also touched this earlier. It's a 4-2-2, mostly associated with Brazil or a team by Ralph Rangnick and Red Bull. It's a Red Bull. It's a Red Bull formation. So remember when I said that the central attacking midfielder in a 4-4-1-1 can do whatever they want? In this formation, they have two of them, and that is very dangerous because in here, usually the perception in this formation is a central overload of 6 players, right? And maybe the passing options here is like very vertical because everyone is in the center. Okay, glaring weakness. Glaring weakness is the fullbacks, right? Because they have to cover everything. But like these two, since they are two attacking tens and two strikers, two defensive midfielders, two pivots, these guys can stay. These guys can stay. That is guaranteed. There's just a guaranteed position cover in both top and the bottom areas of the pitch right here. That's a guarantee. And maybe the one striker can drop deep, or yeah, both of them, I don't know. They can both drop, and maybe they can whatever. What about these guys? Well, let's say one midfielder here is facing a, let's say, what's a good formation? 4-2-3-1. Sure. Okay, a 3. Double pivot here, center back. Or okay. What do they do here? So it will be clear that this is an overload, right? That's the usual perception here. But also, they can do something like this. And this guy can press this fullback. So that means this guy can shuffle here. And maybe this guy can move a bit centrally. And this guy can also move a bit centrally. Now, this opposing fullback is pressured. And again, they can do another shuffle if the ball goes around here. right? All of them can just go here. An intense press. It's just a very narrow formation. That's like the movement here is just so optimized for movement and congestion. It's really good, but you need the right profile. And also, if you are worried about defense, these guys can always just drop off to the side. Drop off to the side. Maybe drop deep for these two, or maybe just one of them. And now you got a bog standard 442. Now, another variant of this narrow 442 is, I wish there is a bigger eraser. There we go. Another variation that is way more popular than this 222 is a diamond. Call it a 41212 or a 4312 or a 442 diamond. They're all the same. Again, it's not about the formation, but how you use it. You can have two shielders. That's what Ancelotti did in AC Milan. You can have three solid midfielders here, like what Mourinho did. You can have like creative midfielders here. You can have basically you can have whatever the fuck you want and how you use it. But this is really good in, again, midfield control if you're really wary about that. Usually, I think this is deployed against a 4-3-3 because with that you have a spare man that can dictate the game. Just go here, go here. And glaring problem is, basically these guys. Yeah, that's a massive problem. So, verticality, and like that freedom of movement in here. These players are free. If something like that. But it's a really good formation if you want control in the midfield, and you don't really care much about the wide players and stuff. If you're proud that you can defend well in these areas of the pitch, and be wary of the crosses, and you have like two banger center backs like Nesta and Maldini, there's no problem with that. That is the 4-4-2 diamond. You got like a maverick right here. I like calling him mavericks. I don't even know what that means, but they can do whatever they want. Trequartista stuff. And you can drop one player here. Maybe have this more central, and now that's a Christmas tree. This is what Rangers did. Back with Steven Gerrard, they had two attacking midfielders instead of wingers, and then just did that Christmas tree. This is what Carlo Ancelotti did in Inter. Or no, AC Milan. This is what they did in AC Milan. This was Zlatan. Another risk here is, once again, the wide areas. But now you have maybe around two people here. One of them be, move here and cover, help this fullback. So it's not really that dreadful. And there's a guaranteed poacher here, striker, whatever. Even more control on the midfield. And they can also provide cover out wide in a standard 4-3-3 if they want to. Speaking of, a 4-3-3 favorite of possession coaches, because can't believe I'm gonna draw this stupid ass line. I think it was that and that and that. Was it this one too? And that and that. Passing triangles. I think there was like this too. Passing triangles. Positional play. Pep Guardiola. Carlo Ancelotti. Once again, this is the third time I'm using it. Jurgen Klopp. Who else? Vincent Company maybe. I don't know. It's really good when you have the best team in the world, because this really advocates for ball circulation if you're expected to have the ball a lot, and there's always a guaranteed player you can passing outlets that you can pass to, something like that. What Klopp did with this formation is freaking Bobby Firmino drops deeper here, then you have Mo Salah cutting inside, or Sadio Mane. So it's basically a 4-4-2 diamond. Have you noticed that? It's basically a 4-4-2 diamond with like really, really wide forwards. So he does that, he drops deep, then pass it here, pass it here. That's why the team works so well. And you can have someone like Fabinho in here, freaking Henderson, and I think Thiago Silva. No, not Thiago Silva. Thiago Almada. He's a really good player, by the way. Thiago. He's like one of the best third men. That's why he doesn't have as many assists, I think. Because he's usually the he usually assists the one who's assisting. Like in this circumstance, maybe Van Dijk found Almada like dropping, so we can go there. And oops, he found Firmino, who's always dropping. Then he just freaking backheels it to Salah, and Salah scores. Firmino would get the assist, but not him, but not Thiago. Anyway, 4-3-3. I think this was a counter to a 4-2-3-1 because it was a man for man, right? This is just a checkmate, and you gotta look for counters then. It's just a good it's such a good balanced formation. But what's wrong with this, I believe, is this formation is very very critical of a pivot, a really strong pivot. Every 4-3-3 will not work if you don't have a very good pivot. I think Chelsea used a 4-3-3, right? They had Jorginho or Conte, but mostly they used a 4-2-3-1. More on that later. But Busquets, Rodri, Makaleli, more on that in a short while. You need a really strong pivot, and most teams cannot afford that. So what they usually employ is the most favorite formation of every single football manager player ever, a 4-2-3-1. Because of the pivot in a 4-2-3-1 is so specialized, you can have in a 4-2-3-1 two players who do the job of one player in a 4-3-3. Now split into two. Now one can focus on defending and one can focus on the passing, or be a general douchebag, right? It's just a very balanced formation, and I think the video that I saw said that this formation is really good at possession, and I don't think that's entirely true, because the strength of this formation is really versatility, like a 4-4-2, because this looks, if you drop them a bit deeper here, that's just a 4-4-1-1, and that means in defense that's just a 4-4-2. See the evolution there? Basically, you have a dedicated 10 who you can either be an Ozil and just spray passes everywhere, or a Thomas Muller who moves everywhere. You can be a second striker, or you can have someone like a Decore, or who is pretty, or a Scott McTominay who is pretty much just a midfielder pressed up, so he can maybe make that late runs, or maybe he can drop deep and join the midfield. That's the good part about this cam, which is pretty much the 4-4-1-1, because it's just this but with more advanced wingers. So it's just very balanced. You can do whatever you want with this formation. It's good in control, it's good in possession, it's good in counters. Oh yeah, you can see this solid defense and guaranteed double pivot, and three midfielders here, attacking midfielders, and a lone striker. That's maybe a lone striker, maybe it's a second striker right behind him, maybe it's an inside forward. That's popular nowadays. Then I think this is what Oli did in Man U, where he had a second striker here, and this Martial will drop deep. That's just fancy. Then you have like Shaw overlap, and again Wan-Bissaka could just be here because he can't overlap. Then you had Pogba who just sprays passes everywhere. And then freaking Nemanja Matic, who's just does not have the legs, but he just fucking kills everyone in here. Just a screen. And you have Maguire and Lindelof. Something like that. It's just a versatile formation. That's why it's favored by a lot of managers. So the next is still in the four. Oh, perfect. This is about the wingers in a lower position, which is a basically a 4-5-1. What is this? This is what I associate Jose Mourinho's Chelsea back in 04, 05, maybe 06. I don't know. I'm not that good in dates, but this is Makaleli. This is Frank Lampard, and I don't know the other midfielder because I am not a Chelsea fan, and I've only started watching football in 2017. So shut. This is probably Robin and someone else. I'm not. I'm just forgetting right now. Okay, I just woke up. Anyway, this is why it was such a very solid formation. I think this formation had the best defensive record. Right? It was this formation. They call it a 4-3-3, but it's basically this one because in attack, these guys will just bomb forward. That's a 4-3-3, but they are tasked with dropping here and not not really joining here. So, you know, it's a 4-5-1. Very solid coverage here and here and here. That's a deadly ass triangle. And if Frank Lampard arrives late, of course he does. And you know, he can do some supporting stuff here, so Makaleli can provide the cover right here. Is very safe, or maybe like just like that. I don't know, but yeah, we have a very strong anchor, and the bad side of this formation is the striker does not really have anyone else. So probably you're gonna want a target man in this area, or someone that just drops deep, but just as that just kills your goal threat, and that would make the other team just be more confident in just doing this. Their fullbacks are just moving up, but that's fine because you can have something fancy like, whoops. Or maybe if you have a one-on-one dribbler, you can just do that. So that means the center back is dragged, and maybe can have opens up for looking a Lampard or something. I don't know. It just kills the game. So let's have a 4-4-2 right here, so you'll understand why it was such a menace formation. Right? 4-4-2 standard formation for the rest of the team. So back four. This is the other four, so that's the two strikers, right? So in here, the center backs can have a free. This guy's free, right? And you know, maybe a team can press here. Maybe they can press the pivot. This also works in a 4-5-1 or a 4-2-3-1? But you know, just this is why it worked back then. So a striker can drop and cover and mark this pivot, and that means the center back is free to do whatever they want. Striker stays, and maybe you can have a pass like that, or maybe pass it to where's the goalie? Then you can have a third man right here, and you can fucking do that shit. Point is, there is always gonna be a free man in a 4-4-2. That's why it just works back then. But now, pressing is just way too high. I think, I don't know. If you just want a very solid defensive formation, maybe try this if you don't really care about scoring goals too much. It's gonna be really hard to have like one striker here unless you have someone like Zlatan or just like maybe Gyökeres or something. I don't know. Okay, back three then. The popular one today is a 3-4-3, or call it a 3-4-2-1, call it a 5-2-3, doesn't really matter because again, it's not about the formation but how you use it. 5-2-3 is not really that much different from a 3-4-3. All you just task your wing backs to sit deeper, and it's also not really that different from a 5-4-1 because all you just did is task your both of your tends to be wider. That's it. Anyway, I like this formation because it's really balanced. But what you really need here is the right kind of players, and someone like Man United does not have that. That's okay. Benefits first, and I think this is what Thomas Tuchel did really well at Chelsea. So if you're facing something like a 4-2-3-1, right? No, no, yeah, 4-2-3-1. Yeah, something like that. There you go, 4-2-3-1. Now you would assume that the two wingbacks are at a disadvantage, right? But it's not really that big of a disadvantage if you think about it, because look at this. It's not really that hard. They don't really need a lot of miles or yards to really move the pitch that way. So maybe in here, and you need a good coaching here, all of them just shuffle to the side. And now it kills this part of the pitch. Just entirely gone. It's a good pressing shape. It's also a good possession maintaining shape. And what's good here is that because of this movement, what you said earlier about an overload here is no longer an overload because you have 3 players against 2. And all they need to do, if they don't really need that anymore, is scoot over here. And now they have an advantage here. And also, if you task them to join here, that is the godforsaken box midfield. And now to a disadvantage. This guy's gonna be dead because if he decided to join up with a striker, that is a disadvantage yet again, right? Man disadvantage equal, but one can just always do that, or maybe drop here, so I'll pin that, both of them. Disadvantage. Also, you can have like a free man. Just if you press these two, then the goalie can always just pass it here, or maybe pass it here. If this guy does not know what he's doing and he's confused on whether to mark him or him, because if you mark him, that means this guy is free to have a take on. But if you focus on this, maybe this guy can focus here, this guy can focus here, then what is this guy gonna do? Right? Is he gonna press the one of the 10s and leave this much space for their opposing fullbacks? Or will he just double down on this fullback or wingback, then risk this guy just cutting behind, right? That's the problem. But again, the weakness here is just general player discipline. This is a very disciplined formation, the 3-4-3, and this is why back before even Ruben Amorim was appointed as Man U manager, I immediately questioned if he's actually good for the job. I was like, no, he's not. He's not gonna work unless he has the players. He doesn't, because he had Rashford, right? Maybe Garnacho. I don't know. Ahmad. Who else? Mason Mount's gonna be good here, but he's not really playing that much, I think. But yeah, maybe who else? Anthony. Those are transitional players. Those are the type of players that wants to be here, not central. They are the type of players that wants to go here. They do not like these or these. They want to do these. Except Ahmad. Ahmad's really good. And you also have a striker that wants to do that. So either you have a striker like actually Xerxes. If you're he shouldn't be a focal point, Xerxes. I mean, if he can, but his job is He needs to be just the guy that drops and provides the outlet for passes for someone like Garnacho, who's now at Chelsea, or Rashford, who's now at um Barcelona, who's doing well. But this is what Rashford does best. He's a forward, and Anthony's just wants to do something like that across, right? He wants this. He wants to cut inside his foot. He does not want to defend, even though I think he's like a really good defender for an attacker. It's really weird. If you do that, if your three forwards are, well, forward, they want to be forward, it leaves a huge gap here. And Casemiro's old as hell, so he's not gonna shuttle right here. So your exception here is Bruno, who will be covering that space. But again, you have an aging Casemiro who's not gonna cover all of this space that you left behind. To add to the problem, it's Bruno being in this position right here. Because in this pivot, he is almost always going to be pressed by the opposition once he gets the ball, so that means he does not have the time. And Bruno is a type of player that needs that amount of time and space, and he can do that most effectively around these positions right here or here where he thrives at. So naturally, you would put Bruno as one of the attacking tens, but because of the squad of Man United, he can only put Bruno in there, and yeah, there's wingers and sorry, I'm drinking Monster. So if you put Bruno in a place like this, you are really restricting him of everything that he is really good at or known for. And that's why he's quite struggling right now. And the only way that he can even be as useful as he was in you would expect of Bruno is put him right here. And again, that would mean Casemiro is all alone. That's the huge issue. Plus they don't have the wing back profile, they don't have the center back profile. I mean they kinda do. They have Lenny Yoro, they have Harry Maguire, who's actually used in England in this position right here. And they have Matthias de Ligt, who is, I believe, in Juve. I forgot where he was deputized at. I think here or here. Point is, he does know how to play in a back three, and Maguire knows how to play in a back three. And I am not sure about Euro because I don't watch him. I don't watch Ligue 1, okay? I don't watch that. But I do think that surprise pick, I think Lindelof would actually be really good in this area because of his passing range, where he can have unique angles like this, or he can pick out something like that. He can do that. He's a really good passer, an underrated passer, Lindelof, and I think he cannot be the central defender, or he cannot play in a two. And I think he's best utilized in a back three at the right side because he has the time and the space to pick out a really good pass. And I think that's I think that was an underrated loss that he left. And I think Shaw is why is Shaw still in the club? This turned out to be a Man United rant video, and I don't mean it to be that way, but it's just so many wrong things about Man United that made the formation look terrible, even though it's a really good formation. Anyway, Tuchel did it really, really well because he had Jorginho and Conte who complement each other really well. He had Werner, who's an industrious winger, and he had Kai Havertz, who either does that, or Tammy Abraham, who likes to stay up top, be the target man, or maybe Romelu Lukaku. He can do that. He's really good at that. He had Chilwell, who is a good wingback if he's fresh. and Reece James if he's not at the hospital. And he had Thiago Silva who can pick out that pass right there. He's a really good ball player. And he had Espilicueta, I think, or was it Marcus? Was it Marcos Alonso or Cesar Espilicueta? I think it's either one of them in these wide areas and Thiago Silva right at the middle. Point is, Tuchel did it well. Amorim is not doing it well. Another 3-4-3 variant, the total football variant. This one. Do we talk about this? You know, this thing? I tried this in Football Manager and it was alright. It was fun passing triangles. But yeah, what do you need to know about this? It's just total central control. And I do think this is a decent attacking phase formation. Because there is a difference. Like, another attacking phase formation is the usual. Here we go. 3-2-5. That's the usual attacking phase formation. Right? WM. That's the usual. And also another attack phase. I think this is what Thiago Motta uses. A 3-1, maybe like a 6, or like that 3-1-6, something like that. But yeah, not really much to talk about that. It's not really gonna work in the. It might work. It's just very pretty. Nobody really uses it. It's just pretty. I think Pep kinda used it when I think he put Rico Lewis in here. I think. Then he had someone like Holland in here. Then Jack Grealish in here. And I don't know who's in here. Was it Bernardo Silva, or was it the other winger that I don't know about? But they put a huge amount of cash in. It's kind of like this. It was like fucking Rodri maybe. I don't know. But yeah, Rico Lewis and shit. Or was it Kyle Walker? Then fucking they did something like their goddamn bullshit formation. What was that? It was a 3-2-4-1. It was so it looks so bad, but it just works. And they hate it when they push the John Stones up so fucking Rodri can have a bit of. No, not Rodri. Rodri was injured, I think. I don't know. I'm not remembering right, but it was a pivot that they moved to the side so we can have more solidity in here. That means the two more attacking players can push up here. So for example, De Bruyne can just do what he's good at and what he's best at, because this is his best space. This is the De Bruyne area, which is also where Bruno likes to play. Or was it here? I'm not sure. But yeah, the half spaces and shit. Football theory. But yeah, pretty much nobody really uses it besides City. So, fuck that. Are there any more 3-4-3 formations? We can do a couple of variants, I guess. Like, I think we've talked about this earlier. A 5-2-3, which is basically the wing backs just dropping. And, a favorite of an underdog team who just wants a 0-0 draw at most, where the two attacking tens are just moved to the side, or traditional wingers. That okay. Here's the thing, and I can't do this in Football Manager, and I'm pissed about it. So basically, a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1 or whatever. It's just you either have wingers or attacking midfielders, but all you just do is put them here. Just do that. Wingers are placed here, near the half spaces, so they can either do their natural game here as an attacking midfielder if they are a cam or a 10, or they can be natural in these areas if they're a winger. And they can't do that in Football Manager without retraining them if they're not natural at it. Even though really in real life there's not really much difference on what they do. It's just they just start just a tad bit more centrally. Like, here's where a winger is. This is where an attacking midfielder is. Where they're placed in a 3-4-3 is right here. Somewhere in the middle. So they can either go here or go here. fill both duties, and you can go here if they focus on the winger duties, or they can go here if they want more attacking mid duties, or they can push up here for striker duties. Just that. Point is, I can't do that in FM. Anyway, here in a 5-4-1, it's just a winger that drop here. They just drop down to both of them. Bam. 5-4-1 is basically it. What about this one? Right? That one. That is a 3-4-1-2, or some people call this a 3-5-2, but I do not call this a 3-5-2 because of this guy. It really depends on what you do with him, but you know that is, I kind of don't like calling this a 3-5-2, because if you call it a 3-5-2, I would expect it like that. This is a 3-5-2 right here. But what about a 3-4-1-2? A 3-4-1-2 is just 3 defenders and 2 wing backs, 2 pivots, center midfielder, and 2 forwards that you can have a lot of fun with. Because you can have forward that drops, has more central, they do that. They can do rotations and stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention rotations, forward rotations in the 3-4-3, but we move. Clearly, the best option, the best areas here is the central areas, and yeah, it's quite glaring on how fucking packed this is. But normally, this attacking midfielder is you can quite do any you can do anything about it. Him, he can do anything in the pitch. He has the freedom to roam. He has the freedom to roam because he has 2 safeguards up top who can press, maybe, or he can have outlets up top, and he can have this very, very stable defense right behind him, so we can go anywhere here. Fucking 8 directions and stuff. He can go anywhere and it'll be probably fine. He can be a real menace. He can drop in the midfield to form a proper 3-5-2 with the midfielders here. He can be the late runner as the false striker, and I think what Jude Bellingham does, he can be the late striker here, the cam. You can just go here and be the late runner. Imagine this is the deep lying playmaker, right? You can pass it to the striker here. That's you can win the ball, and you can just tee it off here, right? Just a small dink, and this forward is busy doing dragging the defender away from the ball, maybe. And this defender is busy pressing him, and he is just about to turn back, but this cam is left unmarked, so he can just receive the ball like that, and he can fucking score goal. 3-5-2 with the cam. It's good here because you have 3 attacking outlets and you have a stable defense. But what about this one? But what about the standard 3-5-2? Now, in the video that I watched, he explicitly said that a 3-5-2 consists of 3 defenders, 5 midfielders for some reason, and 1 is an attacking midfielder, and 2 forwards. Okay, it can work, but then he said that Juventus used this formation. They did not use that in their dominant run, because what they did, okay, imagine here, this is what they did. They had a proper Italian 3-5-2, the Catenaccio stuff, because they have 8 players in defense. So this is a nightmare to attack, especially if they compact themselves. This is an absolute terror, and you can't really cross that easily because of these wing backs. So maybe. You can tee onto a teammate like here, right? Maybe you have a teammate right here. You can pass the ball here. Then what? They have four dedicated players to head the ball away, and once they head the ball away, they have like what, 5, 6 players ready to run. The strength of this 3-5-2 is how fast it is in transition. Because the defense is so stable, that means these players have the freedom to really attack. Or maybe him. Just one midfielder is ready to attack. Or join in with the fun. But calling a cam different as a UV formation is just wrong. They use this kind of midfield with a defensive midfielder. Because this is Pirlo. Pirlo is not a cam. At least after he got flipped into this position, he never looked back. But this is Pirlo, this is Pogba, this is Vidal. That is the midfield right there. The strength here is, pass, long pass, long pass, long pass, and disruptors. I mean, Pogba can do both. He's good. He's a really good player. And you have like Vidal, is just a pit bull in the midfield. And you have like freaking. They had a really strong center back trio. It was like really imposing, very composed, very strong, very disciplined center back trio. And they have energetic wingbacks, and they have really good passers here, really good direct passers, and they have good forwards. So yeah, this is a very good formation if you are at the counter, and that's why this is really good with the catenaccio stuff. Because look, once they drop deep, like this, maybe something like that, maybe a bit more advanced. This is very, very hard to penetrate. Okay, what formation are we gonna play with this now? 4-4-2, maybe. Okay, 4, right? 4. Okay, sure. Glaring weakness. Wide areas. But what are they gonna do with this if they are like tall, very rough? Okay, basically what I'm saying is player profiles is important in any formation, and how you instruct them to play. So yeah, that is the important stuff. But that is a 3-5-2. Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, what's your favorite formation? Mine's a 3-5-2.